Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in again. Today we're going to check out one of the few MapleStory creepypastas about the White Lady of Perion. So turn off your lights, grab a blanket, and let's enjoy this short horror story. Don't be ridiculous, it's just a myth. Words most people have thrown at me after I finished this tale. I don't blame them. It's silly if you haven't experienced it. It's not something that frightening if you think about it. A ghost inside a game? The game was freshly released. Well, it has been out for a while, but I was still very young of age. I think I was about 11 years old. Time has passed quite well ever since. Unlike what you might expect, it was a clear, bright Saturday morning. I had just finished eating my breakfast after my dad had brought home some groceries. As usual, he went out to fill up his car and buy smokes. Eager to play a game I had loved for a few weeks now, I booted up my good old PC. For the time we're in, it was an amazing piece of technology. Playing online games on it was a piece of cake, especially a simple side-scroller like MapleStory. I didn't have much to do on Saturdays anyway, so I'd spend all day gaming without much realization of time. My mom would be working all day and my dad would have been watching television downstairs, so they wouldn't tell me to take a break at all. I logged on. When I first started playing, I wanted to play in Windia. I liked the emblem it had and the name just seemed really nice to me. However, some of my online friends had stopped me and told me to play in Bera with them. I figured the name and emblem didn't really matter that much and I joined my friends in Bera. I don't really know what came up to me when I logged on that morning, but instead of playing on my priest, I decided to make a new character. I went through the quest on Maple Island and arrived in Lith Harbor. For the fun of it, I made my way through the maps instead of taking the taxi. Why make messes? Let's just enjoy the scenery, I had thought probably. I wasn't much of a warrior person, but for some reason I thought it would be nice to make a spearman. Us priests and dragon knights used to have a good relationship. For that reason I thought it would be nice to get to know a bit more about the class to understand what they do when we train together. I headed up to Perion to speak with Dances with Balrog. For some apparent reason the music didn't play. I restarted the game hoping that it would fix the sound problem. I like listening to the music in games. Mostly because of my sense of music at that time wasn't that really too developed and MapleStory has just some really nice background music. Restarting the game didn't seem to help much. I checked the sound on my computer which seemed to be working just perfectly fine. I probably turned off the sound from MapleStory yesterday. I had no clue how to put it back on however. I looked around my room. It was a huge mess with toys and stuffed animals. I decided not to ask my dad to fix it. Music in the game was not worth the rage and effort I had to put into cleaning my room if my dad came upstairs. I went inside the Dances with Balrog's house. Everything seemed just fine as I talked to him. I became a warrior and set out to train on stumps. I didn't like questing that much, so I thought I'd just grind all day to quickly gain some levels. It had been about an hour when I realized how incredibly ridiculous it was that I was training this character and that I could have used this hour to get a precious 10% on my priest. I looked into my inventory and saw that I did collect a little bit of messages that I could transfer to my priest. I didn't have a return scroll, but I only had to walk back 2 maps, so it was pretty fine. I went through the portal on the left to go back to Perion. I walked through the map to the left and entered the portal that would lead me to the final map I had to go through to get to Perion. The screen remained black for an unusual amount of time, longer than it previously took maps to load. Before anything, the music started playing out of nowhere. Problem fixed without having to clean, I had thought. I was on the point to clean my room up a little, so that my dad could fix the audio. Slowly I started realizing that it was odd that the music was playing without a problem, while the screen was still black. Sure, it's not unusual that the music plays when transferring through maps, but the fact that the music was broken before made it feel a little bit odd. I pressed the all too well known key combination Ctrl-Alt-Delete. Instead of returning to my desktop and being shown a Windows XP Task Manager, the game suddenly worked again. Oh well, works fine by me, was all what went through my mind as I walked to the left. I wasn't paying attention much and saw a white blob in my screen. I had this weird tendency to look up at the minimap instead of the actual map when navigating through a map when I'm training in. I don't see any red dots in my minimap, so I found it weird to see something white in the corner of my eyes. I looked down. I stared for a few moments and started blinking to check what I was seeing being really there. A pure white-skinned character was standing in front of me. It looked like a regular MapleStory character, though it didn't show any IGN underneath the character. Even the non-playable characters showed at least their names under their image. I double-clicked her. To my surprise, a character window popped up. No name, no level, no job. It only showed her fame being infinite. something I deemed impossible before I saw this. I looked back at the character, she wasn't there anymore. Drastically I looked around the screen, the character window had also closed. I focused my eyes on the character behind me, hair long and white like I've never seen before, skin pale as my actual person at that moment. A weapon of a warrior and a weird overall I've never seen before. My head started to hurt and my throat was dry. I started coughing, no longer focusing on the screen. I looked at my hands, covered in blood as I've removed them from my face. The pain in my head, it was so horrible. With a loud thud, I dropped to the floor. I could hear my dad running up the stairs. He heard me falling, no doubt. The headache had disappeared and in the background I could hear a faint sound of the opening music of the game I've been playing for 2 hours before this. I looked up to the screen and saw the login page with a blue message. I closed my eyes for a moment, let everything in. My dad picked me up from the floor. I looked at my hands, no blood. I shrugged and felt my throat being clear. Even my head felt as if I just woke up from a good night rest. I looked at my dad. He looked angry because my room was a mess, but still worried about me acting weird. Do you think it's weird your chair could come up in something? Look at this mess. Clean it up, now! I didn't put up the usual struggle of words with my dad about wanting to do it later. I quietly cleaned up, which surprised him a little. He left the room after a minute of silence. As he closed the door, I looked at the message on my screen. There was no text, except for a blue message which would show that I was banned. I wasn't completely stupid, even though I was 11. I closed the message and tried logging in again. Nothing happened, except for a blue empty message appearing. Confused as I was, I sat down. I tried a few more times to get into my account, but without a result. I made a new account, feeling sad that my priest was gone. I logged into the new account, and to my surprise, all my characters were there. I logged off again. I went downstairs and sat to watch TV with my dad, him not questioning what I did. A few years ago, I heard that story about the White Lady of Perion, an NPC who can disconnect you, ban your account, and even gives you a virus. The story tells that this NPC was created when an ex-Nexon employee had died while monitoring the game. The employee named Muriel was fired for unknown reasons and was working her last day. To take revenge on the company that had fired her, she wanted to eternalize herself in the game by making her character an NPC. Something went wrong though, and she was found dead in front of her computer without being logged off. They say the White Lady is no longer the game, and she was removed with the Big Bang patch. I can assure you, however, she's still around.